let's get started. So yeah, we don't have anyone new here today, so we'll just get started. Welcome everyone. This is the open source UnionML planning meetings. It's September 28th, 2022. So the agenda for today is basically I want to go through a somewhat revised roadmap. A lot of the main milestones are still the same as you've seen before, but I've basically cut out, I've moved to the backlog certain things like the K-serve integration. So like basically focusing on like one class of a certain type of feature. So we're keeping BentoML here as the first integration. And then, you know, in future releases, we'll prioritize additional integrations of that same class, if that makes sense. Yeah, Ketan has pushed in a patch deployment feature, so I'll be demoing that at the end of this. So go through the roadmap. Second item is to remind everyone that we're participating in Hacktoberfest this year. So I'll go through some of the logistics and a few things over there. And then lastly, just go through the patch deployment demo. So all of the stuff is done for the 0.1.4 milestone. So I'll be cutting a release for that probably by the end of the week. So that's great. This will kind of like get us out of a phase, and I would say the project where things, you know, are not super streamlined. I feel like after 0.1.4, you know, we'll start stabilizing the API, and there's still a few things that might change, but I think moving forward, we're going to double down on integrations and making it work really nicely with other things in the ecosystem. So just to go through these really quickly, the 0.0 Harmony release will feature a scheduling API, the BentoML integration, additional templates. So UnionML ships with various project templates. So the idea here is just to add a template for supporting streaming databases. So TBD which one will support for this one, but Kinesis, SQS, whichever one makes most sense here. Yeah. So in the last OSS planning, I demoed the S3 event stuff. So this is kind of going along that thread of supporting reactive sort of event-based predictions. And then the last one here that's slated for this release, I've assigned this to Zev. I think, yeah, I've chatted with him, he's aware. So we'll get to this when he frees up. But the idea here is to add a prediction hook to the predictor decorator. The idea there is, yeah, I have some pseudocode here. You can kind of add a custom callback here that'll be called after this function body, and basically it'll pass in things that you might need for logging. So this will lead up directly to Ravella integration and other integrations of that nature where you want to, say, log some predictions, the features, maybe the model that generated them, and then you can do whatever you want in here. Right, so eventually we'll be able to support.
Yeah, Niels, about that. So the API is always going to be the same, right? Model, features, and prediction.
Yeah, that's the idea.
The reason is because you may want to add folks may want to do a partial so that they can probably bind like the client or something, or other configuration for, let's say, calling Ravella.
Oh yeah, so like Let's see, how would that work? So you're thinking like of adding some kind of configuration, like passing
No,
in some configuration?
I was thinking that we should just recommend use funcs.partial, essentially to create the partial function in the
Oh, I
post
see.
callback. So that, but then that also means that your API has to be very consistent. One way to avoid that thing might be is that in the my custom callback, instead of sending the 3 parameters exploded, you could send them as one class or something.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying.
So that
Okay.
you can keep on adding things to it. Yeah.
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean this hints at some kind of class that has a dunder call method associated with it, and then whatever this signature is, we'll just get past that thing.
Yeah.
Ping Zev, he's not on right now, but I'll just ping him, see if he can jump in at some point over the next little bit here. He might have some thoughts there as well.
Yeah.
I know he's been thinking about it. He hasn't written any code yet, but I know it's been on his mind, and we talk about it periodically. So he's got some ideas.
Cool.
But cool. That's any thoughts thrown there? I'll just ping him now and just see if he's. I know he's in meetings right now, so he might be able to jump in here.
Yeah. So just take a note of this. So like some kind of, I don't know, let's just say predict callback inputs, something like this. And then the idea there would be you'd have access to the model, features, predictions, and then whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine there's a way to somehow feed it resolved labels, if that makes sense for the application. Like you'd be able to actually compute metrics like model performance metrics.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. And then I did a similar reprioritization here. So I pulled out a few, I merged various issues and pulled out a few into the backlog. Just, we don't really have a release cadence right now. I would like to eventually do some kind of like monthly or quarterly thing. Do you have any thoughts there, Ketan?
I think let's stick with flight like quarterly, maybe.
Yeah.
For 2.0, we might pull other things into 2.0, like I think the ML flow experiment tracking, for example. We do have some work done already in flight, so maybe we'll pull that in. But I think besides that, let's stick to the quarterly cadence.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and then I won't go through each of these. We'll go through them when we kind of get there. But yeah, 3030 is about like experimentation, model tuning, just making that experience a lot better.
Yeah, but isn't the checkpoint thing and so on much simpler than some other stuff in here? Like,
yeah, for sure. We haven't got into estimating these very well. Do you want to do that now or
your choice. I think
yeah.
I'm fine doing it now, or we could take it offline and talk about them. But like for me, like support model checkpoint from previous training runs seems pretty simple, to be honest. And then model checkpoint save and load model weights, recover from earlier checkpoint. What is the difference between 48 and 52?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I probably these could be merged. I think this would be the first, if we were to break it down, like this would be the first thing. And then this would be, yeah, let me convert these. So yeah, let me just close this. This is basically the same as 63.
Also, in this case, if I understand correctly, you want to use the checkpoint from a previous training run. But should that not be an output of the model then? I guess that's what you'll do in UnionML. It will be an output. And then
Yeah,
you use an existing model.
yeah, we would basically use flight remote to grab that and then
Yep.
feed it into the next call. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that actually is very good. Awesome.
And then there's this. So yeah, I agree. This is kind of a small thing. This will also be small, right? ML flow experiment tracking, since
should be pretty small. Yeah, depending on the
we're
scope.
not. Yeah. Cool. I think the idea here is to simply use the flight kit plugin for now, because we could scope this small like that or larger where it actually uses a ML flow server as a model registry. Like, I think this +1 is even saying like, well, flight is already a model registry, so we kind of have to like improve the UX around that as opposed to using the ML flow model registry.
Yeah.
Unless that's like something some people really want.
Yeah, like let's talk about that, because that would be very good to figure out what is the difference over there and how can we kind of make it simpler for people. For the ML flow experiment tracking, I think that sounds simple, to be honest.
Yep.
So
the tuning one will take some work. I think that'll be kind of a large one. Yeah.
So I would actually break it apart into, the tuning to be a separate thing of its own. Really, like, I don't know. Maybe now that we are, in the midst of things, it feels that tuning might be more work than, let's say, everything else combined. So it could be simple if you use Ray or something. It just use the Ray plugin in the beginning. Yeah, so I don't know the right answer over there, but I feel that the other three are much simpler here. Yeah. And maybe then the quarterly cadence is too slow here.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts here where, I mean, I feel like it would be nice to just have a flight, like a like the many use cases. There is a use case where you're doing like Bayesian hyperparameter optimization, and you kind of want things to be super efficient, where that's where you use RayTune. Yeah. Because you have some N workers and you always want those workers to be completely utilized during the entire thing. Whereas here you could like do a map task fan out, and that'll do fine, right? Since each run is completely independent of the others. So
actually, I didn't notice you have just grid search and random search. Actually, this might be simpler, but we should scope it out then. Yeah.
Because these would be very easy. You kind of, with the grid search, you just exhaustively do everything. With random search, you like sample from some set of distributions. So.
Yeah. And can we not do that? Like, can we do grid search and random search using default flight? And if you want to do any other type of thing, you can use Ray plugin. And somehow the API is very nice for UnionML. I think we can do that, I feel.
Yes, so that using plugins like Ray would be easy.
Switch, right, or something.
Switch, yeah. Okay. And then this incremental training on the schedule. We already have that scheduling RFC. There's already a code example for scheduling a training job. So this would just kind of be that idea. So this would couple with 63 here, where, this would just support like manual invocations of remote train. So would have some like from previous argument or something like that, where you just reference the previous model training run.
Yeah.
This one will just be that on a schedule. So
yeah, and I think you can filter it by the launch plan essentially, because the schedule has the launch plan. So you should be able to absolutely get the previous one. It's pretty cool. Okay. I think all of these then, if you scope it this way, are pretty simple. I mean, always easier said than done, but simpler than we think. So quarter seems too high as a cadence for this.
Yeah. Okay. Let's skip over the future releases, since these are, it's like, next year at this point. One thing I did want to ask about here is what is this? So I made this ticket. Let's see. This is sort of like a concern I have about this whole feature loading stuff. And this came out of the designing the scheduling, the prediction schedule API for UnionML. I'm a little concerned that the methods are starting to become redundant.
Yeah.
So I want to see if it's possible to get rid of these feature star methods. And like the problem, the trade-off here is we have this data set object, right? And it defines a bunch of these methods that are then composed together in the different, like what we're calling microservices, right? Like training, prediction, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that if we were to not distinguish, the problem is this, it's like you have to distinguish between unlabeled data and labeled data. So there are like these two execution paths where you're grabbing data, and for training, you need that data to have some labels associated with it. So you can simplify all of the cases by just saying, here's your data, here are the features, and this is the target field. And if the target field is none, then you can't use that for training. You have to filter those out. You can use that data for prediction though, because all you need for prediction is features, right?
But how do you specify that at runtime?
Yeah, that's kind of the challenge where the training flow is like well defined here. So you first read in the data. Say you output a Parquet file, right? Then you need a loader to like load that data into memory. But if Flight understands how to do that, then you don't need a loader. But let's just say in this case, we're like putting this Parquet Flight file. Then, under the hood, the reader is a different flight task than the training job, right? So that's why there's this separation, and that separation makes sense, since reading data is, you kind of want that partition, because typically like that job will be heavy. Like it might be a Spark job, it might be, some kind of compute intensive job. You pass it over to the trainer. You want to load that into memory. So then, you load that into memory as a data frame. For example, the splitter will partition it into training and test and validation set. And then the parser is the thing that splits the data set into features and targets. So that's all well and good. Now, when you get to the prediction setting, we've created these feature loader and feature transformer methods, and those are purely for when I'm passing in like raw data. Say I have a list of numbers, and those are to be features. Like the feature loader is meant to either handle those raw features, right? So this could be like, say, a list of dictionaries, and then I'm just passing them into the data frame. Or it could be a path, in which case I need to parse that first and then pass it into the data frame. So like this is what we came up with for like when I hit a fast API endpoint and I'm giving it JSON data, and then this needs to be called to like prepare the data for feeding into the model. Transformer it's like another additional thing where if you want to separate the concerns there of like loading into memory and transforming it into like the final form, this is there, although you could in theory move this code into the loader. So this is like where it's not, it's starting to sort of proliferate in terms of what you need to implement.
But the transformer is required for trains also, right? For training too, or no?
No, actually, no.
Why not?
Yeah. So it's weird. Yeah, it's kind of a mess right now. So I think like we kind of need to like either have a loader and a transformer, and those work in all cases, right? But then you see where I'm going here. Yeah. If we have a reader, loader, transformer, splitter, parser, and they're supposed to operate on both the training and the prediction settings, that the function body could become fairly complex there. You're going to have to do like if instance or whatever to handle all the different cases.
Because you might have a target variable in there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of not ideal. It's a design challenge that's not straightforward to solve, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is actually a very big challenge for most teams. So
yeah,
this is why we started solving these problems. I think we need to sit down, and I think if I had to solve one problem, this would be the problem to solve.
Yep. And I think it's worth.
We can try.
Yeah. Like on one hand, if you had just one set of functions that you had to worry about for training and prediction, like it decreases the API surface of this of UnionML in terms of like functions I need to worry about. But if I conflate the two, then the function bodies of those smaller like handful of functions I need to worry about, those will become more complex. So it's not obvious to me what the solution is. Like right now, we're slated to create a feature reader, right, to like completely isolate the two. So that's the current thinking, but I did want to just flag it here and record it so that it's people are aware of it.
Yeah, let's go. And I think I would love to participate in that and just like think about it. I think there's something that we can do. I don't think that it's like it's the cleanest always the possible solution just because of the dichotomy in the way the data exists, but it can be clean.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see this problem in the feature stores, right? Like when I saw feature stores and they have a notion of targets as well, I was like, wait, if you're a feature store implies that you're only dealing with features, but now you have targets. So like, okay, then you're like data set store then, or I don't know. I don't know how they think about it exactly, but yeah, in Feast or in Tecton, you see this sort of thing where they have a notion of targets. So that's interesting.
Is that optional in some cases then for them?
Yeah, I think it is optional. I believe it is.
Yeah, because I think the way we've also handled in the past is there was a feature, and there were targets in there now that you tell me. there was a feature definition, but there was also a target definition. Weird, but yeah, it was there. And the feature definition would actually just decide on the columns and essentially create a view when you ask for a feature, but not get the targets. And when you call the training data set, I think that's what it's called, they would get everything. And a training data set could compose of a feature definition and the target, I think.
Yeah. Like one potential resolution I see here, this is the last point I'll make here, we can move on, is like the parser handles, the default implementation of UnionML for this is like, if the target column doesn't exist in the data set, then return features and none, like a tuple of features and none. And the parser only makes sense, only matters in the training setting. But because of that default implementation, it could be used in prediction, right? You have your data set and then pass it through the parser and returns just the features. You don't have to care about the targets at all.
Why is the targets not optional here?
So the opinion here is that targets is optional and features are. And if features are none, then just assume that all the columns beside the target column are features. So that's...
If not features.
Yeah, there should be features as none.
Yeah, that means if features is none, then features are in targets? No.
No, then the features are the columns in the data
okay,
that
okay.
are not... that are
Oh,
not
these are column names. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
like if a user were dealing with non-data frame data, they'd have to like account for all of this stuff. So that's what kind of makes it feel a little dirty to me, where it's like, you know, they have to account for all these cases. So we either do that and document it well, or just redesign this so that it's a little cleaner.
Or else you just always use data frames. Nowadays, there's so many different types of data frames, including Daft, which is so okay.
All right, cool. We'll punt on that. Next thing is Hacktoberfest. So we have a issue here tagged Hacktoberfest intro. Eduardo wrote a little bit of some prompts here. There's some useful stuff like the contribution guide, all the issues labeled with Oktoberfest. I'll go through the rest of the backlog to see if there's anything else there. And of course, the blog post. So if anyone watching this recording is interested, you should check these out, and you stand to win some swag and an O'Reilly annual subscription. So if you're into that, check it out. All right, I'll pause here. I guess, Mike, are there any items that you want to chat about, or seems like right now we're just kind of blocked on certain things?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear our next move over here. So I think it's just a matter of us getting our kind of like resourcing in order and getting on with the issue. So I don't think anything else that we need to discuss per se.
Okay.
Balls in our court, I'd say.
Awesome. So last part of this meeting, I'll just demo stuff. So, we might do without this once the meeting gets larger and we're actually, in the swing of things. But for now, I'll show you the patch deployment flow. So this is actually worth just showing this. So here's my, what should I call it? Demo. So I'm going to initialize my UnionML project. You see I have a patch demo project here. Very lightweight app, as you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and start a demo flight cluster. This will take a few minutes. And in the meantime, just give you a little tour of the app. think we've all seen this one. It's just digits classification. So this is like the this is like the hello world example. Just get some digits data. I'm gonna fit a sklearn model on it. Evaluate it for accuracy. This is the configuration for the flight cluster.
Hey, Niels, can we drop the config file from there, from the default example? Because
yeah, actually, because it's gonna just do the auto thing, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Also Docker file, because this is the default value anyway. Yeah. Cool. So the thing I'll show off today is in the UnionML deploy CLI command and also the remote deploy method. So you can actually do the same thing by calling remote deploy. Do I have the right environment? I don't think so. There's this new -- patch option, and this will bypass the Docker build process. This is effectively fast registration. We just kind of rebranded it here in UnionML so that like it kind of matches the intent better and kind of doesn't prevents users from having to worry about flight specific concepts. Okay, so I have my cluster running. I am going to do UnionML deploy app model, and this will build the actual Docker image in the flight cluster. So you were seeing the logs here. It's building.
This will take a bit, but this is the first time.
Yeah, actually, while we're waiting, this is actually a contribution that Zev added here, which is allow uncommitted. So by default, UnionML will complain if you have any uncommitted changes, because it's going to try to build the Docker image. So you can pass this flag in to silence that error. Just wait for that for a few seconds. Let's go over the console real quick. You can see that UnionML created this patch demo project for us automatically. And actually, I'm hoping that this issue that Dan is debugging doesn't come up here. There appears to be like a lag between project creation and namespace creation. He's taking a look at this. So usually it doesn't come up, I think, because like when you spin up a flight cluster, flight snacks is already there as a namespace. So typically people will just register workflows against that. But apparently if you create a project on a fresh cluster, it's probably still doing some stuff. So it's when you create it, the namespace won't be immediately created. So hopefully that.
Yeah, there is a sync period. It might take a little bit. So if you just wait out, it should happen.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So everything's being built right now. Cool. So our workflows have been registered. You can see here now, prediction workflow, prediction from features, and a training workflow. I'm going to call this command line argument to kick off the training job. This is where we might see that bug. Yeah, there you go. So the namespace hasn't been created yet. This might be just my computer kind of thing, because I think Dan wasn't really able to reproduce this.
No, I like if you do kf get pods, I might see if it's running. It's okay. I can help you debug this. I know the problem.
Okay, I see. Yep, still happening.
The namespace, right? It's like.
Yeah, so while we wait for the namespace to get built, let me make a change here. So I'm just gonna add a print statement. Later here, and I'm going to redeploy for the app with the patch argument. And as you can see, get some logs here. So I'm deploying an app version. Patches basically use the git SHA plus a little suffix here with patch and some random ID. And looks like it got deployed. So if you look at the console, you can see this patch version is out. So calling this again will actually by default use the app version. So just to show everyone here, the arguments here is the app version, which is so you can explicitly pass that in. But if I don't provide anything, it'll just execute the latest, whatever the latest is. Okay, great. So looks like the namespace is up. This will take a few minutes, but we'll see in the logs that there's a print statement with the change. So that's basically the patch argument there. As I said earlier, you can pass this to the model remote deploy method. Like, so you do remote deploy, and basically you say patch equals true. This is, if you're like in a REPL and you're interactively trying to deploy these things. And you won't really feel the gains of this locally on a local flight demo cluster, but if you have an actual cluster up and running, this will give you the same benefits as fast registration in flight.
I wanted to add one thing over here. So when you're doing model.serve, it's using your local code, right? But now let's say if you have a containerized environment and you deploy the model with the patch release, it won't use your latest code, right?
Oh, model serve is in like a fast API server?
Yeah. Like if you go back to your the previous screen, like in here you have the model.serve, right? That does not prefetch the patch.
Oh, let me actually double check that because I had snuck in a few changes.
Oh, you did?
To the code base. So yeah, interestingly, you can pass in an app version and a model version. And what this will do is it will, at app startup, assuming you have your flight remote set up correctly, it is going to fetch, it's going to load that model here using the flight remote.
Yeah, but let's say if you change the predictor method, then like the signature or like maybe change the prediction logic.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like in a development workflow, you have like the reload option in your fast API or in Uvicorn when you call it, it should hop.
I think locally it'll work. Locally it'll work because you have
yeah.
But I'm just saying deployment. I think I'm also saying that I don't think we should support it. I'm just saying.
Oh no, yeah.
We should probably just like error saying that, hey, you're doing patch registration. That is not recommended for production deployments. Please build a container.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, somehow I can't find the logs on these, but anyway, our training run completed. And yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to pull out the print statement. But anyway.
It's already gone, is it? Oh,
yeah.
you're in the wrong namespace. Can you change the namespace into Kubernetes dashboard? We should have linked correctly, but if not, we can fix that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I think you have 2 hyphens. Is that the problem? No. Yeah.
Logs.
The first, yeah, that one.
Ah, there it is. So in our first execution, like if we were to UnionML, I should add a thing here for getting the app versions. But let me just grab it from console. So I can do something like this, and I say app version, this older one. When this completes, it won't have that print statement. So that's basically the new feature. I'll be cutting a release to add this probably by the end of the week. So be on the lookout for it. All right, so with that, I think we can end this planning meeting. Thanks for attending. And if you're watching a recording of this, feel free to please join us on Slack. Where is that? Let me find the link to that. So if you go to the contributing guide. Oh, I guess we don't have, oh no, yeah, it's up here in the banner. So you can join us on Slack if you have any questions. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Awesome.
All right, bye everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.